Witches. So today we're going to tackle one of the topics that I get asked about a lot. Again, this month I'm trying to focus on answering questions from my community and uplifting voices from my community. So if you have any questions that you would like me to talk about, definitely leave them down below and I'll try to get to them. Just like Wednesday when we talked about kind of group rituals, the pros and cons of that, today I wanted to talk about turning witchcraft into a lifestyle, because a lot of people are asking me, like, how do I do this on a daily basis? How do I incorporate this into my life? I think it's such a beautiful and valid question. Like, I love that people are so excited about witchcraft that they want to interact with it on a daily basis. That's awesome, because same. The other day I was scrolling through TikTok, as one does, just doom scrolling, it's fine. And I came across like that one trend where it's like, name a surprisingly deep quote from an unsuspected source. And this girl was talking about this quote from Practical Magic, and as she was explaining it, I remembered that quote, I guess, from like when I watched it, and also like super agreed with her. So I'm gonna share that quote with you. I am super sorry, I do not remember the users. It was at like 3 a.m., like mid like doom scrolling. So it was a like bright light of sunshine, and if anyone knows this creator, please like let me know and I will be like, hello, you're wonderful. But the quote is from one of the ants, and it goes, and this is what comes from dabbling. I mean, you can't practice witchcraft while you look down your nose at it. And this like made me pause and think, because it's something that I feel like I struggle with a lot in my practice, and that is like being present and like making witchcraft like very real and visceral. Sometimes I do like get into my own head about stuff where I'm just like, how could this possibly work? Like, I'm lighting a candle and covering it with herbs and like there are times where I doubt my own power and my own magic. And I feel I definitely fall into this trap of like doubting myself, or just really being like, okay, well, how much could this actually be helping, because my life still sucks and blah, blah, blah. And that's really not the purpose of witchcraft. And I think this wanting to interact with witchcraft on a daily basis is part of people wanting to walk the walk and talk the talk, or make witchcraft, their spirituality, a lifestyle, because spirituality is one of those things that gives us a great compass as to how to steer our lives. To address the question now, after ranting for 25 minutes, how do you do this daily? My number one piece of advice is to break it down and start adding one like little magical thing per week. So like literally one step at a time. So whether that is a commitment to getting up and meditating in the morning, or making tea, or whatever that looks like for you. For me, it's usually a morning routine because I'm a morning person. Much like anything else, much like any other lifestyle changes you are going to be making in your life, whether that is like a new like diet, whether you're going like plant-based or vegan or something like that, it's really hard just to switch over. But if you start making little switches, it becomes way more manageable, way more sustainable. And yes, that is kind of a non-magical piece of advice. I'm about to follow it up with another non-magical piece of advice, and that is to be okay with failure. Something that I struggle with a lot. I'm super not cool with failing. Like, for me in my life, failure has never been an option. Like, my parents were not okay if I failed, and if I failed, it was like the end of the world. So now I'm like unlearning how to be okay with failure, which is really, really hard. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but don't beat yourself up if you forget to do something. Like, your deities aren't going to be mad at you if you forget to light their candle in the morning, or you need to do it at a different time, or if you are super tired and you can't do your yoga practice in the morning. Super cool. You got to listen to your body, right? So be okay with failure, with failure to perform a task, with failure to do, something correctly. It's gonna be okay. That's how we learn and how we move forward, and it's something that I have to remind myself of constantly. So I'm right there with you, don't worry about it. Now that we've got kind of some of the non-witchy metaphysical advice out of the way, which is just like start small and be okay with, not doing things perfectly the first time, the witchy piece of advice I have is to surrender to it. And I know that this is super hard. It's super hard for me. I am a total control freak. But I find that when I allow myself to let go of everything else that I have to think about, because I have a million things jumbling around up here that I have to worry about like all the time, I find that when I can get to a point, which is not super frequently, that I can release some of that and just kind of be present in my working, true magic really does happen. So even if that is like kind of your first step of like just practicing being mindful, practicing being present in a magical space on a daily basis, or on a weekly basis, whatever works for you, I find that my biggest struggle and the biggest thing that I've had to overcome in terms of, incorporating witchcraft into my daily life is to be present and, like I said in the beginning, stop looking down my nose at magic, just accepting it for what it is and surrendering to the universe, allowing the universe to guide me in the direction that I need to go. So putting my trust in something other than myself is super hard for me, but it's something that through witchcraft and through my practice has become slightly easier. One of the biggest things that I have personally found has helped me in terms of aligning witchcraft with my daily life is to align my life personally with the rhythms of the planet. So again, as always, it's going to be a work in progress no matter what. But I found really a lot of peace and a lot of understanding of my emotions through tracking the moon phases and celebrating the moon phases, and allowing my energy to be really expansive during the waxing phase and really introspective during the waning phase, to set my intentions during the full moon, or excuse me, the new moon, and then manifesting them during the full moon. I promise I have done witchcraft before. I do know the lunar cycle. So the lunar phase is really fantastic for me in terms of like keeping track of my goals, making sure I'm on track for the vision that I have for my life. But in general, on a bigger scale, I find that aligning myself with the seasons, resting when it's dark and cold, and then being more expansive, more energetic during the summertime like it is now, I just have found that in the past 2 years of kind of living my life that way, I've felt a little bit more stable and a little bit more cognizant of why I might be a little bit more down or a little bit more sluggish in the winter, instead of like beating myself up over just like acknowledging my natural rhythms of my body, right? Another thing that I found really helped me to kind of embrace witchcraft as a lifestyle, as well as a spirituality, is just being unapologetic about loving witchy stuff. For a really long time, I felt like I had to hide this, not only from my friends, but my family, of course, definitely my family, but also my partners and stuff. And that was really, really hard for me because this is a huge part of it's the main part of my personality, let's be honest. But I found that when I was unapologetic about it and I started claiming that title, I'm yeah, I'm a witch. It just really, it helped me give myself permission, I guess, to interact with this stuff on a daily basis. So once I felt a little bit more free to be my witchy self to its fullest, I definitely felt like I was seeking out witchcraft more. I felt more comfortable learning about it, posting about it, and then by proxy, I guess, or because of that, I started connecting with witchier people and began to make witchy friends. So by doing so, I really started to interact with witchcraft and my spirituality on a daily basis. And by starting to practice it on a daily basis, I found things that were a little bit more sustainable for me and my practice, and the things that definitely weren't. So hopefully I can save you guys a little bit of grief by saying to break it down into small things, because I definitely dove in with 2 feet, got super overwhelmed, and almost quit doing witchcraft altogether. So please avoid that if possible. And the last thing that I really wanted to touch on is the fact that it's okay not to have a daily practice. I know this is a goal for a lot of people. I feel like I've talked about it a couple times this year, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that the times that we are living in currently are very chaotic, and it is okay to prioritize yourself, your mental health, and your physical well-being before your spirituality. Ultimately, your spirituality is here to guide you through this life, this wonderful conscious existence on this beautiful planet. Please prioritize yourselves over your spirituality. If you find that your spirituality is adding a stress to your life, it's okay to back down and kind of step back from it, for sure. The last thing that I wanted to leave you guys with is another quote from one of my favorite movies, Lord of the Rings. And it's something that I find that I repeat to myself a lot, especially if I'm feeling down about not practicing enough or anything like that. So the quote is, "All that we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us." Which was said by a wonderful wizard named Gandalf. But I really love that quote because it helps me put things into perspective. So we have this one lifetime where we can experience as much magic as possible if that is what we want, or prioritize other things. So it's up to you as to what you decide to prioritize in your life, in your spiritual practice. And if living that lifestyle of the witch, bringing magic into everyday circumstances is something that really calls to you, you have my full support, and I wish you all the best. So I will leave you guys with that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!